Today's video is all about the habits that we want to create to live a healthy life. And of course, being a channel that is all about plant-based health and wellness, eating more whole plant foods or a more plant-predominant diet is a big part of today's focus. I myself am not perfect with my health habits. There are so many things that I am working on and want to improve, but through my own study and life experience, I do know this much, and I really hope that what I share today is helpful for you. I'm Hayley, and welcome to The Plant Powered Celiac. So what are habits? James Clear, who wrote one of the most well-known books on the subject, Atomic Habits, states that habits are a routine or practice performed regularly, an automatic response to a specific situation. They are behaviors that are tied to a particular context or environment. So essentially, they are a collection of repeated behaviors that we do in certain contexts that our brain has put on autopilot, meaning that we don't need to consciously think about them. Our brain has automated them for us because we do them so often. Like driving, for example. Once you've been driving for a while, you typically don't need to consciously think about frantically checking your mirrors like you did when you were learning, because it's become an ingrained behavior now that you drive regularly. So how does this concept relate to our health habits? If you look at the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, for example, can you identify which areas you have good habits in, and in which areas you need to break bad ones and cultivate good ones? Do you need better sleep habits, more consistency with good nutrition, or to break a binge eating cycle or an all or nothing pattern? Do you need to develop better habits to help you manage stress in a healthy way? Or maybe you want to get good at exercising regularly, or having healthy relationships, or even avoiding addictive substances, whether that be processed food, alcohol, or other substances that adversely affect your health. Whichever one it is, and maybe it's several, it's clear that having better habits is about becoming the type of person that you want to become. Habits are not just about reaching a finish line and then being done. They're about developing a lifestyle. So your current health is a direct result of your current habits, not the habits you want to have, but the ones you're actually repeating day after day, good or bad. 20 years ago, when I was sick with the symptoms of newly diagnosed celiac disease, I was exhausted. I was overweight, I was in pain, and I was heavily addicted to processed foods. And I still had the goal of wanting to be healthy. I wanted to be physically fit. I wanted to be energetic, to study, to work, and to have a family of my own one day. But just wanting it alone didn't make it come true, because I didn't have the right knowledge or understanding of how to make that happen or to change my current circumstances. I eventually did get some good understanding on the healing power of raw living foods from a wonderful naturopath who really helped me to kickstart things. But because I didn't create easy, sustainable systems, it would be another 15 years of pain, bloating, binge eating, yo-yo dieting, restricting, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and eventually developing psoriasis, another autoimmune disease, until I learned the power of creating systems for good nutrition habits and stress management habits, which I'm always trying to get better at. So what is the difference between a goal and a system? James Clear explains that the goal is the outcome you want to achieve. It's the target that you're shooting for. And if you're watching this video right now, I'm guessing that getting healthy in some way is a goal for you. In fact, most people want to get healthy and be in shape. Studies show that losing weight or getting fit is repeatedly the #1 New Year's resolution for most people in the Western world. But just having a goal of wanting to be healthy isn't enough to make it happen. No matter how much you think about it, visualize it, wish for it, want it desperately, it's just a dream until you create a system that will help get you there. The goal is the output, and the system is the input. Focusing on the input is what will lead you to the output. Systems are the steps it takes, or the collection of daily habits you need to reach a goal. It's the roadmap, it's the action plan to get you there. Almost everyone has goals, but not everyone achieves them because they fail to put in systems to get there. When I went plant-based over 6 years ago, I had to learn a new system for shopping, prepping, cooking to help me sustain my new habits of eliminating all animal products and processed foods for the most part. I'm not perfect at that part. When I was trying to heal from psoriasis 2 years ago, I began eating a hyper-nourishing plant-based diet. That is a term coined by Dr. Brooke Goldnut from Goodbye Lupus, who healed her own autoimmune conditions by oversupplying her body with the healing foods needed to repair damage and reverse disease, like raw cruciferous vegetables, high amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, and lots of water. This large amount of raw healing foods definitely took some getting used to. And I quickly learned that I needed a system to help keep these new habits and lifestyles sustainable. I needed to buy and stock lots of bags of dark leafy greens at a time. I needed to always have bananas on rotation to ripen and freeze for my green smoothies. I needed to keep bags of flaxseed and chia seed on hand, and I needed to have lots of fresh fruit and vegetables and tofu to keep me full and satisfied. So I got into the habit again of shopping differently and preparing food differently. And those habits are still my current system today. When I was a sick 16-year-old living at home, I was surrounded by lots of gluten-rich processed snacks in the fridge and pantry. And I found it a real challenge to break free from eating gluten for good back then because my environment was full of visual cues, reminding me that there was plenty of easy, low-hanging dopamine foods available, even though I knew that those foods would make me sick if I ate them. James Clear says that environment is the hidden hand that shapes behavior, and that our habits are tied to a particular context or environment. So I knew that if I went into the pantry of my childhood home, there would be lots of gluten-rich, hyperpalatable foods that I would crave to eat. So while I did eventually lessen the gluten-rich binges once I met my future husband and found my big why to make the commitment to stop eating gluten for the rest of my life, it was still a real challenge in that environment. It became easier for me to create a new healthy eating environment once I had my own space and kitchen. I created a healthy environment that made it so much easier to sustain my new habits. Now, you don't have to necessarily move to a whole new home to be successful with your health goals, but building new habits is much more doable when we follow the 4 habit laws. We need to make it obvious, we need to make it attractive, we need to make it easy, and we need to make it satisfying. So doing small things like creating a dedicated space for the new habit really helps a lot. For example, having a cupboard or even just a shelf that is dedicated to only whole foods makes it easier to choose them over and over again because they're now easy to see, obvious, accessible, and attractive. Or by clearing a space that is solely dedicated for working out, like your garage or a spare bedroom, or even just a corner of your living room or your own bedroom with the equipment you need that is ready to go and easy to access, will make it so much more likely that you will stick to that habit because you have removed the friction between getting started and it all just feeling too hard or like too much effort. Our habits can be better formed when we understand the science behind how they work. James Clear shares a simple graph in his book Atomic Habits called the habit loop, and it describes the 4-step pattern of habits. Number 1 is the cue. A cue can be visual, it can be audio, it can be a smell, and it's like your brain recognizing and detecting that reward will follow a particular thing or behavior. For example, you've been eating pretty healthy all day. Now it's evening and you're tired, maybe you're stressed and tired. You see a block of chocolate sitting in plain sight in your pantry. Your brain is now visually cued or alerted to the fact that an easy reward or a quick way to change your current emotional state is right in front of you. Number 2 is the craving. You suddenly realize that you can feel different or better in that moment if you eat the chocolate because your brain remembers how good you felt in that moment last time you ate it, and you suddenly crave to eat the chocolate. Number 3 is response. You choose to respond to the cue or craving by eating it. Number 4 is reward. Your brain is flooded by a huge hit of pleasure chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, and you feel good as a reward of eating that chocolate, and your brain then remembers this pattern. Now, both you and I know that the chocolate tastes pretty dang good in the moment, but our brains have been tricked into thinking that we've done something good for our survival because our primal brains don't know the difference between eating rich foods to survive and eating rich foods for pleasure in today's modern environment of highly processed foods in the Western world. And I, for one, am certainly not immune to the taste of rich foods. And though not perfect at it, I have repeatedly worked on cultivating a healthy environment in my home as much as possible. Yes, I do eat some gluten-free processed vegan food sometimes, But I choose not to store those foods that are particularly triggering to me in the house so that I'm not being constantly visually cued to crave them. I don't have any more willpower than you do. I'm just aware of my patterns and triggers, and I work harder on creating a supportive environment that aligns with my goals and values than I do on berating myself as to why I couldn't have more willpower to resist that food that's constantly stored in the house. In my previous video on eating healthy after the holidays, I explained how I like to put some friction between me and the cue to eat processed foods by putting those items for the family members who want to eat them in a non-see-through basket that goes to the back of the cupboard. So by adding friction, we are basically inverting the habit loop process by making it less attractive, less obvious, less easy to access, and that really helps a lot. I have personally struggled with refined food addiction for a lot of my life. And so if that's you, I don't recommend storing foods that are particularly triggering to you in the house, because at some point they will call your name and you will be tired enough and you will be hungry enough, whether that's physically or emotionally, that they will start to look really good to you, even when you know that they might make you sick or they're just not aligned with your health goals. And that's really the hallmark of addiction: repeating a behavior that's hurting you and feeling like you can't stop or have no control over it. Remember, it's not about having more willpower. Willpower is finite, it runs out. It's about working with our brain's inbuilt mechanisms to eat the richest foods in the environment for our survival. And make sure that your environment is full of healthy options. Of course, eating some rich foods for recreation now and then is okay if you're healthy. But again, if you are a junk food addict, a processed food addict, it's really important to choose healthy whole food options instead, like the ones that I share here on this channel. Another example is if your goal is to get more sleep, which is always one of mine, some ideas on how to make good sleep become a habit is to start reflecting on what it is that's stopping you getting into bed at a reasonable hour. Where is the friction in this case? Are you on your phone for hours at night? Try inverting the habit loop pattern by making phone use less attractive and easy to do by setting it to automatic grayscale at 8 or 9 p.m. You could set a bedtime alarm to help remind you to put your phone down. Make it less easy to reach for by putting it to bed in another room, or even by switching it to flight mode so that all notifications are now turned off until the morning. Our phones are designed to be highly addictive, just like the processed foods, and we're all susceptible to overusing them or struggling to put them down. But we can create new habits to help us regain our time and energy and our sleep by creating healthy boundaries with our phones and creating healthy habits around bedtime. Now, this might sound a little restrictive, but habits do not restrict freedom, they actually create it. If you get a good night's sleep the night before because you put your phone to bed at a good time and you got these 7, 8, or 9 hours of sleep that you need, then you're going to feel more energetic, clear-headed, and optimistic the next day. And that's real freedom. That little bit of pain caused by discipline far outweighs the ton of regret when you wake up groggy, tired, and frustrated from not having had enough sleep. And that lack of sleep might then have a negative compounding effect the next day on the food choices you make, the lack of energy you have to move your body, the lack of energy you have to exercise, and the way you show up in your relationships. James Clear says that our habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. So whatever your current habits are, time will multiply them. If you have good eating habits or good exercise habits now, then you'll be in good shape in 6 months, a year, or even 10 years from now as a result of those compounding habits. If you have consistent unhealthy eating habits and you don't move your body regularly, then the compounding effect will be that over time you will feel out of shape, generally dissatisfied with your physical health, and possibly even fighting a disease. What we do for just one day doesn't seem to matter much in the moment, but repeating that behavior over time can either create a problem or a solution. A great way to know where you are on your journey to your desired health goal is to ask, can my current habits carry me to my desired outcome? Am I on the right path towards my goals? James Clear says if the answer is yes, then all you need is time and patience. If the current system is working well, then you'll get there. Just keep going. If the answer is no, then something needs to change. And I have been there plenty of times. In fact, making small changes every week is what keeps me going. I'm constantly tweaking things a little bit here and there, fit in with the rhythm of life, the shape of the day, whatever comes up. We don't need to be perfect with our habits every single day to see results, but we do need to be consistent. Consistency beats motivation every time. Say you just received a terrible health diagnosis and you're feeling really motivated to make a change. Maybe you're thinking of the goals that you still want to accomplish, or your kids or your grandkids, and you're feeling super pumped and motivated to overcome this and make some healthy changes. You try to implement some good changes, but after a week or two, your motivation wanes a little and you find that the drive-through is looking really attractive at the end of a long work day, or those old late night ice cream eating habits feel way too comfortable to let go of. The motivation has waned, and it will. You need to build systems that will keep you consistent. Motivation is fleeting, it's unreliable, and it doesn't last very long. But consistency is dependable and steadfast. It's what carries you through even when you don't feel like doing it or you can't do it in the ideal way. James Clear has a great tagline for keeping consistent with your habits even on your worst day, those days when nothing seems to be going to plan. He says, reduce the scope but stick to the schedule, which means that on those days when life happens and you find that all of a sudden you've run out of time for that hour-long workout that you'd planned, then reduce the time to a 20-minute workout instead to keep the habit alive. Maybe you have to change the time of day you do your workout just to fit it in, or the time frame you work out, or even the type of workout that you've planned to do. But by reducing the scope and sticking to the plan, you are showing yourself that you are the type of person who values working out and doesn't want to miss it. Not giving up altogether when habits can't be executed perfectly, and sticking to the plan consistently, even the unideal version, means that we stay on track to reaching our goals more quickly. We don't reach our goals by being perfect at them every day for 2 weeks and giving up altogether on that one day that we couldn't stick to the ideal plan. We get to our goals by consistently repeating the behaviors that are part of the plan, whether they're shorter or a different time frame or a different flavor or ingredient than we'd ideally like. It's about being flexible in our planning. But when something goes wrong, or as James Clear says, even on your worst day, that you can still follow through, and about being committed to the decisions and the goals that we've set no matter what is happening around us. Identity-based habits are key to making them stick long-term. Atomic Habits states that every action you take is a vote for the type of person that you want to become. So asking not just what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to become? By doing these behaviors every day means that you will be more likely to continue with your healthy habits. By sticking to your workout plan, even when it's not the ideal version, means that you are taking on the identity of a fit and healthy person, because exercising regularly is just who you are. When I went plant-based 6.5 years ago in search of better health, I loved how good I felt. At first, it was just an experimental diet change that I was trying. But after a month, I loved it so much that I kept the plant-based habits up. And after a while, I started saying, I'm plant-based or I'm vegan when somebody would try and offer me food that had animal products in it. And it sounded weird at first because it was new to me. And it did take a while for my family and friends to get used to the change. But once I began to identify as a plant-based eater of a vegan diet, it gave me more confidence in my identity to comfortably make those choices. So now my friends and family don't even bat an eyelid when they see me eating a massive bowl of broccoli and tofu or sweet potato, or they see me drinking endless cups of green smoothie, because that's just a part of who I am now. Every time I made a plant-based meal in the beginning, whether it was a winner or a fantastic failure, or when I blended some fruit ice cream instead of eating the processed kind from the supermarket, I was placing a vote for the type of person that I wanted to become. It reaffirmed to me that I am a whole food plant-based eater. And even on those days when I was tired, busy, rushed, or when I didn't have the right ingredients to make a specific vegan meal, I stuck to the plan, but reduced or changed the scope. For example, there have been many times when I have been out and about or visiting family and time has run out for me to go home and make lunch before I need to do the school pickup. I just open a can of chickpeas and drain it, rinse it, and eat it like popcorn. I take it with me on the go if I didn't have time to make a proper meal. Or I would snack on fresh fruit while I'm doing the grocery shopping because things took so much longer than expected and I ran out of food that I packed. I always bring my own food to get-togethers, even if people think it's weird, because I am a plant-based eater, and eating whole plant foods is part of my identity. The same thing goes for when I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2006. I eventually learned to let gluten-free become a part of my identity because it needed to be. And eventually it became my new normal and normal to all those who know me. In fact, it's kind of a key part to how others identify me these days, because I'm often the girl that people turn to when they need a gluten-free recipe, or we're going to some event or gathering where it's bring a plate and I get asked to bring the gluten-free version, the sugar-free option, or the plant-based option, and I really like it. Choosing identity-based habits are a more surefire way of helping us become the type of person that we want to become. One of my favorite concepts for successful behavior change is the idea of habit stacking, taking an existing habit that you already do and pairing the new one on top of that makes it so much easier to actually incorporate new habits into your life. For example, if you have a habit of watching TV every night, you could try adding a workout to it. Grab out a yoga mat or some dumbbells or an exercise ball and do a workout while you're watching something. Choose a type of exercise or movement you like and gamify it. Make it more fun and enjoyable by adding a reward to it. Try swapping your processed sweet snacks for a sweet frozen fruit ice cream or some tasty whole food treats that satisfy a sweet tooth. And try to fill those emotional cravings with enjoyable self-care activities instead of using food to alter your emotional state. Be reflective. It can feel confronting to take an inventory of your current habits, but try to truly assess your life, your routine, your habits, and see where you can make some tiny changes. My challenge to you is to choose one habit, just one to start, that will have a positive ripple effect on other areas of your life. This is what's known as a keystone habit. Keystone habits are not just one positive action, but they create a catalyst for other positive actions and create other transformations in your life just because of that one action. Like how moving your body each day can lead to better sleep habits. For me, a keystone habit would definitely be sleep. For years, I think I've written sleep off as this unimportant, optional thing that can happen after I've done all the other things that I need to do. But I know that when I prioritize sleep, when I do get a good night's sleep, I naturally have more energy the next day. I feel more positive, more optimistic. I want to move my body because I have the energy. I want to naturally eat more whole foods. I'm not looking for quick energy spiking foods because I have more stable energy throughout the day. Getting good sleep for me really has quite the effect. So choose one keystone habit to create for the month of March and see what can happen in 30 days. I'd love to hear what you're going to work on, so feel free to write in the comments below what one habit you're going to work on this month. And if you're looking for some accountability, we can cheer each other on. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you found something encouraging or uplifting in today's video, and I truly wish you all the very best with your health habits for this month. I will see you in the next one, and as always, have a wonderful day. Bye.